Hello, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit more about completing the square. In general, we know that when completing the square, if we have something like x squared plus bx, to keep it really general, we know that this is going to equal x plus b over 2 squared minus b over 2 squared, right? This is the general formula that we need to remember when completing the square. And we can simplify this a little bit further. And in fact, in a previous video, an introduction to completing the square, I talked a little bit more in depth about this technique. But really, this is all that one needs to memorize. And we can simplify this formula a bit more by just remembering that all we want to do really is take the coefficient of the x term and divide it by 2, as we see here. And we're going to put in brackets x plus what that would equal, and we're going to square it, and then we're going to subtract also by that number and square it. So let's just think, let's work through a couple examples. Start with something really simple. So say we're given 2x squared plus 16x. Actually, this might not be the best way to start, but that's okay. So the first step I'd want to do here is factor out this 2. Okay, so that would leave us, I'll put it in square brackets, 2 in the square brackets x squared plus 8x, right? A factor out of 2, this is now an 8x. And now we can complete the square with what's in terms of what's inside these square brackets. And so that's going to give us 2. And so we want to divide the coefficient of the x term by 2, which is going to be 4. So we'll have x plus 4 squared, right? We need to square the parentheses. And then we're going to subtract by 4, and we're going to square that 4, right? So you want to divide the coefficient of the x term, as we see here, and then also subtract by that and square it. And I'll just close brackets, and we can simplify this a little bit more, where it would be 2, that's going to be times x plus 4 squared, and then this is going to be 16, right, because 4 squared is 16. And finally, now we can bring this 2 back in, and that's going to leave us with 2x plus 4 squared minus 32, right, because we're just bringing this 2 back in, like so. Okay, and that we're done with this particular example. But let's consider something different. Say a more standard quadratic. Say that we're given x squared plus 6x plus 1, which equals 0. So the first step, we just want to, the first step I would be inclined to do is just subtract 1 from both sides. Alright, it's just basic algebra. So the x squared plus 6x, that's going to equal -1, right? We just subtracted 1 from both sides. That cancels out on the left, and now we have -1 on the right. And now we can complete the square here on the left hand side. And so we want to divide the coefficient of the x term by 2. That's going to leave us with 3. So on the left hand side, we're going to have x plus 3 squared minus 3 squared. That's all going to be set to equal -1. Scroll down a little bit. And now what we can do is we can add 9 to both sides, right? Because 3 squared is 9. So we're going to add 9 to both sides. And that's going to leave us with x plus 3 squared equals, and 9 minus 1 is 8. So it's going to leave us with 8. Now we can take the square root of both sides. Again, this is just basic algebra. It's going to equal plus or minus root 8. And we can simplify root 8 actually, which will be 2 root 2. If you think of a factor tree, I'll draw one up here. 8, what goes into 8? Well, 2 times 4 is 8. What goes into 4? That's 2 and 2, so we can factor out a 2. And so this is going to be the same as plus minus 2 root 2. and actually I'll just erase this to save space. And so we can still simplify this a bit further. We just want to subtract 3 from both sides. So this is going to be x equals minus 3 plus minus 2 root 2. And those are our solutions. Minus 3 plus 2 root 2, minus 3 minus 2 root 2. Right. Let's do one more, maybe 2 more. But let's do something again that's a bit different. Let's say we're given 2x squared minus 7, and that's going to be set to equal 4x. Right. So the first step I would be inclined to do is just subtract 4 from both sides. 4x, I should say, from both sides. So that's going to give us 2x squared minus 4x minus 7, which is going to set to equal 0. And now we can also add 7 to both sides, because we want to get this 7 over to the right. So we can position ourselves to complete the square. So it's going to be 2x squared minus 4x equals 7, right? And now we can divide by 2 right across. So that's going to give us x squared minus 2x, which equals 7 over 2. And now we can complete the square over here on the left hand side. Well, 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So we're going to have x minus 1 squared minus 1 squared, and that's going to equal 7 over 2. Well, 1 squared is just 1. And so we're going to add 1 to both sides. And so that will leave us with x minus 1 squared equals 7 over 2 plus 1. So we're going to add 1 to both sides, right? I should say. So it's plus 1. And that's going to be 9 over 2. 7 over 2 plus 1 is 9 over 2. 9 over 2. Or maybe I'll just write it this way. We're kind of so x minus 1 squared, running short of space here, is going to be 9 over 2. And now we can take the square root of both sides. And so if I just backtrack a little bit, that's going to leave us with x minus 1, which equals plus minus root 9 over 2. And if I scroll down here, okay, that will do. And so we can still simplify this a bit more, because this is the same. Root 9 over 2 is the same as root 9 over root 2. And so we can rewrite this as x minus 1 equals plus minus root 9 over root 2. And I'm not going to skip any steps, as you can see, just to make it all explicit. Well, root 9, square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so that's 3. And root 2, that's going to leave us with 3 over root 2. And then I'll just write it like this. How about that's going to leave us with 3 over root 2. And then we just want to rationalize the denominator. And so that's going to leave us with x minus 1, which equals plus minus 3 root 2 over 2. And now we just add 1 to both sides, so it's going to be x equals 1 plus minus 3 root 2 over 2. And we're done. Right, so let's do one more. Say that we are given 15 minus 6x minus 2x squared. All of that, of course, is set to equal 0. So the first thing I'd want to do is multiply both sides by -1. So I'll just maintain the tradition of writing everything out for the sake of this video. So 0 times -1. So we're multiplying both sides by -1. This is just going to be 0. And then we're just basically distributing a negative sign right across, right? And so that's going to leave us with 2x squared plus 6x minus 15 equals 0. Now we can add 15 to both sides, which is going to leave us with 2x squared plus 6x equals 15. And now we can divide by 2 right across. And that's going to leave us with x squared, and 6 divided by 2 is 3, so it's going to leave us with x squared plus 3x equals 15 over 2. And scroll down. Now we can complete the square on the left side. So we want to again divide the coefficient of the x term by 2. So that's going to leave us with x plus 3 over 2 squared minus 3 over 2 squared. And that of course is still set to equal 15 over 2. I'll just erase this. 15 over 2. And now we can simplify this a bit more. 3 over 2 squared is the same as x plus 3 over 2 squared. So this 3 over 2 squared is the same as 3 squared over 2 squared. And 3 squared is 9, of course, and 2 squared is 4. Whoops. 4, and so that's going to leave us with 9 over 4. And so now we can just add 9 over 4 to both sides. And that's going to leave us with x plus 3 over 2 squared, which equals 15 over 2 plus 9 over 4. And we can just multiply 15 over 2 by 2, which is going to leave us with 30 over 4. 30 over 4. And 30 over 4 plus 9 over 4 is 39 over 4. And so now we're going to take the square root of both sides. And maybe I'll write the following steps. I'll just rewrite it out up here. So far now we're left with x plus 3 over 2 squared equals 39 over 4. We're going to take the square root of both sides. X, again, it's just basic algebra, so x plus 3 over 2 equals plus minus root 39. Oops. Let's make that a little bit more neat. 39 over 4. And this is the same as x plus 3 over 2 plus minus root 39 over root 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So, and 39, nothing goes into, 39 is a prime, I think, so it's just root 39. And so we are left with, finally, x equals negative 3 over 2 plus minus root 39 over 2. Those are our solutions. Minus negative 3 over 2 plus 39 over 2, and negative 3 over 2 minus 39 over 2. Just like that, and we are done.